Aisha, for more on this, we are joined by the founder and executive director of the National Security Institute, Jamil Jaffer. Jamil, great to see you this afternoon.
Thanks for having me on, Bill.
So we just heard the president say he doesn't think this was Iran. He thinks it was the state of Minnesota being incompetent and that Iran has bigger problems in Minnesota. But the intel agencies apparently think it was Iran. What incentive would Iran have to attack Minnesota's water systems?
Well, look, we've seen Iran come after American operational technology systems for a long time. We saw them go after a dam in New York, a water treatment plant in Florida. We know that this is an area of interest for them, so it very well could be the Iranians. It also could very well be somebody posing as the Iranians. So the president is right to say that we're not sure who it is. Blaming it on Minnesota, a little harder to understand because it's 30 different water systems, small localities and utilities across the state. So it's hard to imagine it's actually the state of Minnesota. But there's definitely a possibility it's not Iran and some other actor. We just don't know for sure who's involved in this effort.
So just getting a note in our email right now, the FBI just coming out with an announcement warning of potential cyber attacks on water and wastewater infrastructure. The FBI says that just since this past Monday, July 27th, at least 7 different states have reported incidents to the FBI about their water systems being attacked or disrupted. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, look, that's something that we've seen before. We've seen multiple states staging set of attacks. So again, this could suggest, the fact that it's been multiple states, it could suggest a nation-state actor, and it may very well be Iran. This is sort of in their MO. You know, the best countries in cyber when it comes to cyber attacks are the United States, ourselves, obviously, the Russians, the Chinese, but Iran and North Korea are that next tier up. They're very capable. They have the ability to access our critical infrastructure systems. They've been long seeking access. We've seen them probing for years. What we haven't seen here, by the way, in Minnesota is destructive activity. We have seen some systems temporarily go offline. We've had the utilities able to switch to backup. So we've seen some success. It'll be interesting to see what these other states have seen and what they suspect it's the Iranians as well. And then the question will be, is it a false flag? Is somebody trying to blame the Iranians? But I think the hard part about this is it's hard to blame the state of Minnesota when you're seeing 6 other states having this stuff as well.
Well, the New York Times came out with this report where they spoke with some of these anonymous intelligence agencies officials on why they think it was Iran that did this. They write in part, quote, 3 state officials briefed on the investigation into the breach said the tradecraft used and the absence of a ransom demand had led analysts to tentatively conclude that it was the work of Iranian hackers. So my question to you would be, other than that lack of a ransom demand, what are some of the other digital fingerprints they would look for to find out who did something like this?
Well, you know, a lot of times when these cyber actors get engaged, they have certain ways and patterns they behave. Interestingly, sometimes it's the time zone in which they operate. They happen to work during working hours in the country they're in. Now, what's important about the techniques they use, the tactics they use, and the time at which they work is that not only do they know it, and not only do we know it, other advanced actors know it as well. And so oftentimes what you'll see is an advanced actor operating on Iranian time, using Iranian techniques they've seen on their own systems to mimic the Iranians in order to throw a false flag and blame another party. So these false flag type operations definitely happen. It's definitely a possibility. But, you know, we're pretty good at doing attribution. We're pretty good at figuring out who's involved and why they're acting. And so if the intelligence agencies ultimately come to a conclusion, this is very tentative in very early days, that it was Iran, you can pretty much take that to the bank.
I do want to ask you on another topic here. Reports that Anthropic's AI system, Cloud, apparently kind of went rogue and hacked some other agencies or companies on its own. Anthropic writing in part, quote, we identified 3 incidents in which a model accessed the internet, then gained unauthorized access. Cloud sought, identified, and exploited vulnerabilities within the company's infrastructure, believing it to be part of the exercise. Jamil, AI obviously offers so many benefits, but what would you say to the Americans who worry that AI is going to get too smart someday, it's going to become self-aware, and we might have something like the Terminator movies in the future down the road?
Well, look, Bill, I'm not worried about the AI robot overlords taking over. But look, I do think there are real serious issues here. And we saw OpenAI come out last week, talk about the fact that their model escaped a closed environment. It was able to hack Hugging Face. Hugging Face, for its part, said we tried to use Anthropic and Claude to figure out, Anthropic and ChatGPT to figure out what had happened. Their own constraints prevented us from doing that. We had to rely on a Chinese model. That's a disaster, as you can imagine, Bill. And now we're seeing Anthropic saying, the problem with what happened with Anthropic and the difference between what happened to them and what happened to OpenAI is that they mistakenly gave the models access to the internet. It wasn't on purpose. It was one of their partners who there's a disagreement or a misunderstanding, and they let them have access. But what was really interesting, what the model did was they actually released, code into the wild. People downloaded it in one instance, and actually a cybersecurity company of all things was hacked by this model, and they didn't even know it. So there are real situations here where these models can be a problem. The key is, how do we work together, industry and government together, to make sure that these things don't happen, and that we have good defenses on our side using the most advanced models.
Yeah, it's just wild to see how quickly this technology is advancing. Jamil, Jaffer, got to leave it there. Thanks for coming on this afternoon.
Thanks, Bill.